Right, so good morning then, Paddy. Thanks very much for going on the podcast, mate. We're really looking forward to this, because obviously the health and fitness industry is a massive industry, and you're somebody that's sort of gone to university, done your lecturing, PT to sort of local people around here, also in the professional environments as well. So we've had a lot of questions come in about sort of the technical aspects of training and that sort of stuff, but we're also interested to know about your business as well. So should we go back to the start and just how you got into fitness and what you into as a kid?
Yeah, perfect. No, first of all, thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. I think I was just like most kids, played sport. My PE teacher described me as a jack of all trades, master of none. Took part in literally everything, and I just wasn't very good. So I thought I'll go down the coaching route instead, really. Did footy, cricket, rugby. My brothers had all the sporting talent. They were tall and athletic. I was short and wide. So wasn't really blessed with the sporting traits. And then, yeah, just from there, I just decided to go through school, sixth form, went to university. Didn't really have like an idea that I wanted to get into PT or strength and conditioning then. I think it's when I did a lecture, one of my tutors, he was a head of academy at Leeds Rhinos, and he was a lecturer, and I thought, that's pretty cool, I want to do that. So I kind of like streamlined my kind of working life and my strategy towards becoming those things, really.
Spot on.
What did you do at uni? What were your courses?
I did sports science at Leeds Beckett's now called, and then went on to St Mary's down in Twickenham, did a master's degree, and I've just finished my PGCE through UCLan.
What's your PGCE, sorry?
That was in teacher training.
Oh, right, okay.
That is not the most exciting of courses you'll ever do.
Yeah.
But I did learn a lot, definitely, and it's helped me with my online work I do at the moment, because a lot of the stuff, or my kind of niche and philosophy is like an educational approach rather than just quick fix. I like you to finish the course and know a lot more about nutrition, a lot more about training. Yeah. And I think just from having the teacher training background, it just gives you the tools to help teach effectively, like the art of teaching, kind of thing.
100%.
Would you recommend your path that you've taken so far?
Yeah. PT is a strange qualification. There's not many qualifications where you can do a 6-week course and then be in control almost of somebody's life. Like, people come to you with problems, with questions, and you could have just done a minimum of a 6-week PT qualification and be affecting them, which I'm not really a big fan of. I think it should be a bigger qualification, and whereas I don't necessarily mean that you need to go to university, because a lot of university you don't learn a great deal. There's loads of skills that you do take from it, so there's probably like an in-between. I think the courses need to be a bit longer, so you've got more knowledge, more of a skill set, more analytical skills to go with it. But I still think you probably are going to be better off if you go to university and get as much knowledge and experience as you can alongside it, so you can best help the people that you're working with, really.
Yeah, it's a great base to have in it to go into PT, and you've got that theoretical understanding.
Yeah.
But is there anything you did at uni that you've like specialised in or really interested you to think, oh, this is an area of the sort of fitness industry that I'm interested in?
Well, whilst I was doing my sports science degree, there was the strength and conditioning modules there. Sports science is kind of like, it's quite a holistic degree, so you've got like psychology, physiology, nutrition. So all of that does underpin your PT training, but it was more the strength and conditioning that took my fancy, and that was like my early career was actually a full-time strength and conditioning coach, working with Barrow footy, Barrow rugby, up at Carlisle United. So I did that originally. So that was more of my passion. I wasn't doing like one-to-one PTs until about 3 or 4 years ago. Really, it was actually full-time in sport.
Right.
So for people listening in year 11, heart set on being a PT, what would you advise them to do? Straight after school, what's the best route to becoming a really, really good PT?
Well, my route was, first of all, going to Barrow sixth form and then doing PE there, so starting to learn like about the underpinning, physiology, anatomy, and getting that base and that foundation. So I suggest something like sixth form, or going to, for example, where I used to teach at my school, we had like BTECs in sport, and you learnt the same thing. So I'd definitely suggest doing something around the sixth form route and then a BTEC. And then if you do have the passion to kind of further your own knowledge, then university is probably a good route for you. But if not, you don't necessarily need to whatsoever. I would get a good mentor, go and shadow as many people as you can, learn from them, because you're going to make a heck of a lot of mistakes. Like, you know nothing when you start. I remember doing my internship, which like my younger brother Will is a rugby player, and I think that's how I got my first start-up in sport. I went for the internship, and because Will was already there, I got the job because I wasn't good enough. I didn't have any real knowledge. I didn't have any experience. They just gave me, and I remember the first day he was like, "Paddy, can you go get us a Swiss ball?" which is that big bouncy ball thing, and I was like, crap, I don't know what a Swiss ball is. I generally walked outside, Googled what's a Swiss ball. I was like, oh, it's that thing. And I went and got it for him. I was like, there you go, it's a Swiss ball. But yeah, there's a lot you just don't know. So yeah, I've just lost my train of thought. What was the original question?
What path would you take? I think you answered it.
Yeah, we go down the sixth form, get those qualifications, obviously do your PT quals, and if you do have like a first for further knowledge, go to university, yeah.
So just the career side of it then, can you talk us through post-uni, everything you've done so far?
So post-uni, I started doing work placements. There was Cumbria Rugby Academy, it's been disbanded now, that was up the coast in Workington. Did that first, and I shadowed Matt Johnson. He's the Workington Town conditioner at the moment. Really, really intelligent, but also practical. So he was good to first learn from. And then I got that internship at Cass with Will. Make sure you ask if you go for your internships what the attire is. I went in a suit. I thought it was a suit. Why would you not go in a suit? And they wanted me to do practical demos. So I'm squatting in my dad's suit. And I was thinking, I've not got this job, have I? Here? And but I got it, but because of Will, not because of that. So you always know somebody though. So like even if you want to just reach out to me, somebody in like year 11 and just like come shadow for a week, that's fine. Or somebody you know, a PT, go and just watch them and you'll pick something up. Yeah. From there, but yeah, so I did my internship, and then Darren Edmondson was the manager of Barrow at the time. He got me in, worked with Barrow, then went to Barrow Raiders with Cresta. I'm still there now. And then Darren went on to Carlisle. He was the academy manager, so I was full time with the academy there. But that was driving to Carlisle every day, like an hour and 20 each way. My car was like an old banger, didn't have a radio. When you go over Shap, you just sat in silence because I couldn't get any signal. I never knew of podcasts back then. I could have listened to this. I'd probably fallen asleep. But yeah, went up to Carlisle, and then the first team guy left. You find that when you work in sport, you stick there long enough, you'll get the job. One of my friends, Mike, I might tag him in this, he got the Crystal Palace under-12s job. And he just stayed in it and worked right the way through it. And last year he was head of sports science for Crystal Palace first team. That's a cool job. So you just stick with it. So he went, and then I went from Carlisle into teaching, and then teaching to what I'm doing now, PT and online transformations.
Love that.
Yeah.
How have you seen the pathway of, say, the actual development in research change over the last 5 years?
With regards to like which specific topic, or just as a whole?
As a whole, in terms of nutrition, but also specific weights and training.
Yeah, generally it goes full circle. Yeah. Like a lot of the time there's fads that come in, especially with nutrition, and there's a lot of kind of influencers out there or people with certain agendas that are pushing certain approaches. Like if we go to nutrition, like there's some people who are known as the keto guy, like the carnivore person, whatever, and they've definitely got agendas behind them because the research isn't adamant that any of those diets are better than others. And then what you usually find is, take for example from a fat loss perspective, everyone's like, oh, you've got to do this. Like, is it Joe Rogan? Is he pushing the carnivore or something lately? Someone said, and then he looks class, got a six pack. So you're like, oh, I'll go do that. But the research shows if you equate for your calories and protein, there's no difference between any of these diets. Just choose a diet kind of thing that works for you and you can stick to. Now, like keto might be the one from you, like restricting your carbohydrates. If you do that and it puts you into a deficit, you'll lose fat. That's all these diets do. So generally the research comes all the way back to full circle, that if you stick to the basics, same with weight training, stick to the basics, look for your progressive overload, look for increasing your intensity over time, increasing your volume, you'll improve, providing all your ducks in a row. But all these gimmicky things that come in, they generally get found out, and just simplicity is key, really.
A lot of it's very, very good marketing strategy, isn't it? Like
yeah.
Someone with a product has asked Joe Rogan to push the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
He's got the biggest podcast in the world. It's not a bad forum to push it on. It's money for them. It'd be interesting if someone came to me. I'd like to think I stand by my morals, but if someone's like, here's $1 million, just go up, say a load of stuff about paleo, I wonder when you would like resist saying about it. Like next week I'll go on a podcast. Yeah, paleo's class. No diet is better than that.
Yeah. On that topic, what's your view on fasting?
On fasting, what for fat loss?
Well, in general, like gut health, overall health in general.
I think fasting's similar. It's another tool in the toolbox. If you're fasting for kind of 16 hours a day, you're probably more likely to eat less than someone who isn't fasting. So from a fat loss perspective, that may work for you because you're restricting your window of eating. I think in terms of, it then becomes difficult to maybe get your protein if you've got large protein targets. You've only got, the 8-16 one, you've got 8 hours to eat, to try and get your protein in every 4 hours or whatever, to just keep stimulating protein synthesis might be more difficult. But if it works for you and it fits into your lifestyle, I'm just a big believer in crack on and try it.
Okay.
In terms of like fasted cardio in the morning, people say fasted cardio burns fat, and there's a difference between like using fat as an energy source and actually losing body fat. So if you've got no carbs in you, obviously you're going to use fat as an energy source, but unless you end up in a deficit for the day, you won't lose body fat. Okay. So it actually increases your fat burning, but not necessarily your fat loss, because you're shown to eat more later on during the day, and it can like slow down your metabolism during that day. So the research doesn't support fasted cardio for being any better for fat loss than just regular cardio after eating, really. It's just, again, another gimmick that's come around. But I would go back to, if you enjoy training on an empty stomach, then do it. Don't overcomplicate it, but it's not a magic pill really for you. And on gut health, what have you heard about on gut health? Just to spin it back to you.
Well, just more on the case of if you're fasted over a certain duration, then something to do with the bacteria in your tummy is almost like eating away during that period.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say I'm an expert in that area. I've heard a little bit on that from Lane Norton, saying that you don't want to just be continually eating all the time. The stomach's not designed for that. In terms of from like a gut health perspective, I like to just make sure that I'm getting enough fibre and enough veggies into my diet. There's people who are big proponents of like a colourful plate, getting all your mixed colours, vegetables in there, just to help with that gut microbiome, and then trying to limit, your highly processed foods. There was that picture of the Mackey's burger, wasn't it? That was it like 2 years later, it just looked exactly the same.
Really?
Because it's just been preserved, because they removed all the bacteria from it. So I definitely think you need to be getting most of your diet from unprocessed foods, just to help that gut microbiome, and then just finding what foods you maybe don't do so well on, like working through those. There's like certain types of fibres that can, although you want fibre in your diet, that can affect your your gut health and etc. So it's figuring out your body, whether you've got any intolerances to anything along the way.
Have you heard of Zoe, the new patch you can get that measures your...
Yeah, that's the podcast I was listening to.
Oh, is it? Yeah. It measures the microbes in your system.
Yeah.
It tailors your diet to suit what you need, what you're lacking.
So it sees where your blood sugar spikes on certain food products.
Yeah.
And find out the best
Smart,
diet.
Isn't it? Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I think it was the same, but was it Diabetes?
Yeah, it was.
They talk about getting 30 different plant seeds, vegetables in your diet regularly. So seeds, like he said, he had a big jar of seeds of 30 different types. He just chucks them on his yogurt in the morning. He's sorted.
Yeah.
So for like you specifically, what would you say is a perfect day in terms of timing that you would eat and what you would eat, but probably give a bit of a description on what you're doing outside of, like, in terms of training for, because it's going to be different, obviously, depending on the individual.
Yeah, depending on the individual and depending on what your goals are.
Exactly, yeah.
So if you're trying to build muscle, for people who've been going to the gym for a long period of time, you can't really escape the fact you need to be consuming more calories than you're burning. Fat loss, flip it around. But I always try, if I'm trying to be eating like quote unquote healthy, but like just to go into that, there isn't necessarily like healthy and unhealthy foods, so to speak. You can lose body fat eating Haribos, and you could get fat eating chicken and rice. It all really comes down to energy balance. But there is foods that have more calories in them. Say you eat like one Motum, it's like 50 calories, and you're still starving, and no one's ever had one Motum, have they? You have about 6,000.
Motum.
Well, how do you pronounce it?
Mawam.
This is a different one. It's not in the shop yet.
Always the Barrow.
Can you edit that one when we come round? I've always said Motum. Someone pulled me on that the other day, but I'm going to be my own person. Potato. But whereas like a chicken breast, it's got very minimal calories, but it keeps you full. So like I try and make sure that my diet is full of foods that aren't like too calorie dense, they're more nutrient dense. Okay. I would like to follow the rule of like 80% unprocessed foods and 20% processed where I can. Have a protein source every time I'm eating, so chicken, fish, eggs, dairy products, nuts, Greek yogurt, that kind of thing. Try and make sure that my protein sources come from those. But also, I don't mind the convenience of protein yogurts, protein bars, where possible, like especially from like the gut health perspective, they're maybe not ideal, but from convenience and just from hitting my protein targets, I still will have those. Because it's hard to hit like 200 grams of protein eating purely unprocessed sources. Similarly with my carbohydrates, I would go for more complex carbohydrates where I can, a bit more slow releasing, like your whole grains, vegetables, fruits around training to give me that little bit of an energy kick. And then fats, go for largely unsaturated, like we said before, nuts, seeds, fish, that kind of thing will fill out my diet.
What about the timing of them? Like, when would you eat them?
I'm not too serious on it. I kind of eat when I'm hungry, really. Like, I usually have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a couple of snacks throughout the day, around about 35, 40 grams of protein of each, and that'll hit my 200 gram protein target throughout the day. If I've got training, that's when I'd be, for example, if I was in a fat loss phase and I was trying to be in a bit of a calorie deficit, I'd maybe be reducing my carbs in the meals where I'm not training. So if I'm training at lunch, my breakfast will be quite carby, and then my meal just after my lunch will be carby to give me that energy source to train and then to help me recover. But then my tea, I might lower my carbohydrates because I don't necessarily need it. I don't need that energy source for when I'm sat at home. I just want to make sure that I'm energized for the amount of training I'm doing a day, which can be quite a lot. And it sometimes can be quite minimal. Like, I'm in the gym, sometimes I'm in industry like 13 hours a day, and I can't find the time to train just with my online and my face-to-face. People think, well, how can you not train? But it's just sometimes life gets in the way. But then, like, for example, yesterday I trained for 2 hours in the morning, and then we did 1 hour of running in the evening. I needed my carbohydrates around that. Otherwise, I'd have been like flat as a pancake, really.
Yeah. Just going back to your business sort of side of it then, how did you sort of start your business, and what does that look like in a minute? How have you developed it?
Yeah, I started it in lockdown. I started PTing in my garage, my mum and dad's garage. I like kitted that out and was just doing it from there. And then I remember I had a noise complaint from my neighbour, and I was like, I was like Googling how do you get, like, I wasn't grunting, it was just the music. And I remember just Googling how to get like music licenses and stuff, and I was proper panicking. And then it was through Bull, who I used to coach at the Raiders, said industry's opening up, we'd love to have you there. I went and met Howden and the boys, and we just clicked. Like, got on really, really well, and that kind of ticked my box of not having to stress about PTing at my mum and dad's garage. Yeah. Went into an all singing, all dancing facility, loads of space, really quiet through the day as well for the most part. Like, it's busy around class times, but a lot of the time people are quite nervous coming into the gym, so it's perfect industry. It's like dead from 10 to 11 and then from 2 till 4, so it's good PT times. Obviously busy, peak hours, but it's really good to get people in there. And then I've started doing my online stuff. I remember I used to use Excel in my early days. Sorry if you're on an Excel plan back in the day. But I've just modernised that now. I've got an app and everything delivered through there, videos all embedded, and it's just so much more sophisticated and just easy to use. And just grew, really, just got more and more clients, did my best to make sure they got the transformation. And then through word of mouth, it just grew alongside that, always trying to put out like good educational content that people can like learn from. And then if they want to learn more, then they can get on a plan with myself. But if not, they've got a little bit of information there to try out on their own, really. And then I was teaching at the same time as this, and it was just too full on. I was driving to Preston, teaching all day, driving to the gym at night, PTing, like doing online plans during my like downtime on my lunches at work. It was just too stressful. I went part-time for like a week, which I was a bit annoyed at myself out, because I kind of pissed them about a bit, saying I want to go part-time, and they were like, yeah, that's fine. Mm-hmm. And then like a week later I was like, well, I'm leaving. So I shouldn't have done that, but they understood it was just, I didn't do it on purpose, just my life just got busy and I couldn't deal with it. Now and then I just went full-time at the gym. It's kind of 20, 30 hours PT a week, and Brilliant. Raiders in the evenings when that starts up again, and then the online stuff alongside that. So got a nice blend now of face-to-face and online work.
I remember when you first started, and it wasn't you didn't take the decision lightly to leave teaching, did you? It was
no.
You dragged it out, do I don't.
I'm a panic, aren't I?
But you hit that decision that some people have when they want to pursue something else other than 9 to 5. It's leaving that security, getting a monthly wage to like stepping into the unknown, if you will. But you hit that crossroads, and it was I can remember we were talking about it a lot, weren't we? And then you just made the leap, and but it's been an unreal decision, hasn't it? Like, I don't think there's anyone in the gym that you haven't helped.
No,
you genuinely care
some
about
shape or form.
It's good. I think you made the right decision.
Yeah, definitely. There's obviously like financial worries when you go like teaching. I was like a lecturer. That sounds like you're on a lot of money. Like financially, that was 24 grand a year. When I was full time at Carlisle United, driving there like 6 times a week, 18 grand a year. And your mates are in BAE. Like, I'm definitely not like completely financially driven, but who doesn't want money? It's nice. And they were all in like 30s, 40s, and I thought, I can't just keep doing this with all like the skill sets I've worked hard to earn. And now I've got a much better like, bend of like the financial side of things. I really enjoy my job. Like, I've got a bit more freedom on the weekends to actually do stuff with Hannah, so she doesn't leave me and the 2 dogs. You didn't tell me off as much anymore.
You genuinely enjoy it though, don't you?
Yeah, I love it.
What's the most satisfying part of your job?
The most satisfying part. There isn't really much better than when you get that text saying like, I've smashed it this week, or like, I really enjoyed that session, I'm like 4 inches down, blah, 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 I'm feeling much better about myself. That probably is the most rewarding, that you have actually had a part to play in somebody else's success and hitting their goals. Or if it's like my performance plans, like them hitting the targets there, like completing the half Ironmans, getting 500 kilo squat, dead and bench totals, that kind of thing. That it is rewarding to know that you've helped in some way. Like, they're putting in all the hard work, don't get me wrong, but you're kind of giving them the plan to follow, and you're there for guidance. So that's probably the best part.
Definitely,
What's been like the toughest times since you've been like self-employed? Is there any time you think, actually, I'm struggling here, or you wish you didn't quit your job? And
yeah, definitely. Because when you're self-employed, like coming back to financial again, I think there isn't really a morning where you don't wake up. Like, I definitely am a bit of a worry. I don't know if all self-employed people are, but you wake up just thinking like, am I going to make enough money this month? Like, for example, Christmas and December's not the best time for online plans, because why would you buy a plan around like from a transformation? You're not saying why would you, because you probably should, because if you can get in shape around Christmas, it's going to be well easy in summer. Similarly, a lot of my guys on performance plans, you can't stop training if you're training for an Ironman in March or a Jacko Marathon in April. You can't switch off for December. You need to be continually building that base. But yeah, I think the main stress is just waking up just thinking like, am I going to make any sales? I'm going to keep clients on plan and moving forward. That's probably the hardest bit, and that's why I paid myself for like extra courses. Like, I paid £9,000 for a sales and closing course.
Really? Yeah.
So like, I'm working with a company down in Birmingham just to help with that side of things. Like, my plans used to be like, I didn't know what I was doing. They were like 50 quid, whereas now they're more than 50 quid, should we say? And you can't. It's to sell you a 50 quid plan is easy. I don't even need to speak to you, but to sell a plan worth 10 times that, you need to be. And then some people in the fitness world are selling plans at like £2,000-3,000 for 12 weeks. So you can't sell that without face-to-face, without like a sales call. And there's more to a sales call than you think. I don't know about that stuff. I know PT and anatomy, physiology and all that, the sciencey stuff. I don't know anything about that, so I had to upskill myself and do those courses. So that would be something, probably going back to what you should do, not just PT stuff, business courses alongside it, because that side of the job is tough.
I didn't realise how important that side of your business is. A lot of your time is spent on your content and getting the word out there, but you see a PT, you think, oh, he's got loads of clients, people will be queuing up, sort of thing, but a lot of it is putting yourself out there, getting the word out there, how you can help people, and you've gone from strength to strength, haven't you? But you've got someone who helps you out with that as well.
Yes, I've probably got that was the one I paid for, but I've also got a professional swap with somebody up in Bowness, and I do his training program and he gives me business advice. So I go up to his place of work like once a month, and we just talk shop really about pricing, like funneling, social media strategies. Like we practice like sales calls, what to say, what not to say, that side of thing. You need help with, really, or you need to start doing your own research. It's tough, and there's people out there who do it for a living now. A lot of PTs transition away from like online transformations into being like coaching PTs. That's like the next kind of thing that's out there, and there's a big market for that because PT's moving a lot online for a lot of people, but it's saturated. You've got to be different. You've got to have your own niche and your own target audience. Be good at what you do because there's so many people wanting to do it now. I don't know if it is still the same, but sports science used to be the most popular degree out there, and there's just not really any jobs. Like there's a lot of people who do sports science and they move into BAE. Yeah, move into BAE and just other jobs because it's hard to make a good living really from it.
So from a client perspective, just say if I'm out there, I'm looking for a PT.
Yeah.
How do I differentiate between a good one and a bad one? Because as you say, someone might be really good at the marketing side, but there's no substance to that. Or there's someone might be like you who's really good from a substance.
Yeah.
And maybe not as good as... I'm not saying that you are now, but I'm saying...
Sounds like you are.
But you get my point back. How do you differentiate?
That's a good question. I think when you're listening to people, you can kind of... For me, you can get an understanding on whether they're just chatting shit, really. There's like some things they say, but I guess it'd be hard to know that if you didn't have like that a little bit of scientific background to it, because when they're spouting all that information at you, you can, well, that sounds good. So it would be kind of hard to have that filter on there. But sometimes people say stuff and I'm like, I don't know, but that doesn't sound right. And I'll go away and do the research myself. So, but if somebody kind of didn't have a little bit of a red flag going off in their head, I guess it's just maybe you might have to actually take the plunge and start working them if everything that they've done so far is good, if you're working face to face, and then just see for yourself and learn, and then see if they're actually helping you hit your goals. But it'd be quite hard, especially if you're going online, to like just know like what is that person actually like. Maybe you have to actually look at like recommendations, look at reviews, see if anyone else has worked with them before, because it's usually word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Like someone will say, I worked with Paddy, he was really good, he helped me achieve goals, or Paddy was crap, don't go with him. It's probably speaking to people who've done a plan before, reaching out to them. But I don't know if there's any really other way of just figuring it out, to be honest.
What made you go with Paddy for your...
Word of mouth, really.
It's me,
you guys, yeah.
Wasn't
it? You said he was shy.
I think even looking at other people...
Yeah.
Even like looking at other people's achievements is a bit of a red flag. Can be misleading sometimes, because someone will go to PT, they put them on a stupid diet, which is like really low calories.
True, yeah.
They shred up after 6 weeks, 2 months or whatever. You think, oh, bloody hell, they look great, I might try that. And it works. If you could stick to it, it works. But then after it, it's back to square one. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
One of them, I'd probably be looking at like knowledge or the skills that you accumulated, the knowledge that you built over a certain time period. Like, you haven't just been on a course for 6 weeks, you've been consistent for the last 5 to 7 years, working your ass off to get in this position now. And that's what I would look for, alongside word of mouth.
And being involved in all your professional sports clubs or semi-professional sports
Yeah.
Because you're only going to learn there, aren't you? It's not going to like hinder your progression if you can get involved with a professional sports club.
I think just working in the sports club helped more because there's somebody to have a conversation with. When I did my internship, there was 2 strength and conditioning coaches with PhDs, with masters, and I could just pick their brains every single day and learn from them. There's physios there from like the anatomy and the rehab side of things. Mm-hmm. That's really helpful. Like for example, now I've got quite a few clients who come to me with hamstring tears, and I like to just speak to the physio and just say, thinking about doing this and this with them, let me know if there's any red flags there or anything like that, just so you can bounce ideas off them. And then based off what you said about like those quick fixes, it is definitely tempting. I look sometimes and think, how the hell have they done that in 8 weeks? And there's like, especially if they've done it naturally, like it's hard to make sensational progress in like 8 weeks. And I was thinking, what is going on there? But like you said, they might have put them on something that's not sustainable really. And my philosophy now is like long-term educational sustainable results rather than just boom, quick fix. Like if you want that, you could easily just have like Emma Boatsy used to say, if you eat prawns and asparagus every single day, every meal, you'll look class, but good luck sticking to that.
Yeah,
but like it's like you could just do that if you wanted to, but
you're almost wasting your money on a PT at that point because you're after a quick fix and don't eat much.
Oh, this is easy.
Straightforward, but if you're after something sustainable, So one of the things I'm really interested in is like how you build discipline. Like if your client comes to you and asks for a plan, it's one thing giving them a plan, but how they're disciplined to stick to it, or whether you've got any advice on how you can build discipline before going on a plan.
Yeah. Generally, they say it takes like 28 days to embed a habit, doesn't it? But I think in order to do that, you've got to work with them to find, from a nutrition perspective, like a way of eating that works for them. So do they like the food? Does it fit in with their work life? Does it fit in with their costs? So if I was to say to you, just eat this, you probably wouldn't do it, because that's not how you normally eat. So I need to not reinvent the wheel, but just start drip feeding in little things to make it a lot easier to stick to, because it's then not too different from what you were doing in the first place. I reckon we could just look at your diet, for example, and then see how much protein, how much fibre, look from a macros perspective, and then delve in and say, well, have you thought about maybe adding a protein source into your breakfast? Like, what proteins do you like? Are you normally eating? Can we do that? Does that fit in with that? And I think if you do it like that, it makes it a lot easier to stick to, because it's not just me saying, right, here's your shopping list, go buy this, start cooking this, and you're like, well, I don't even like that. So you're not going to stick to it. And if I say to you, if you like you play football, don't you? Like, part of football is that the a bit around football is better than the game. Like, go in, like, just having a crack, the beers after the game. I'm never going to say don't have beers after the game. Just know that if those beers take you into a calorie surplus, you will gain body fat, probably. But if you can factor those beers in to the week, maybe you've saved up a few calories leading in the week, you can have beers, you can have a takeaway, provided you fit it into your calories. But you kind of still have to be quite disciplined to do that. But it all comes down to the calorie perspective, and trying to not restrict too much. If you restrict, it's hard to stick to. You just got to be smart about it and pre-plan. Like, the research shows that 90% of those who want to lose body fat do, but 95% of those who do lose body fat regain it all within a year. But the ones who do keep it off just have consistent traits, like the exercising, the pre-planning, the being mindful of what they're eating. If you can stick to that, that should help you stick to it long term, really. Yeah.
Awesome. So with the shift to online and helping people online means your knowledge is getting further afield. It's not just local face-to-face.
Yeah.
Do you think you can help people just as much as you can with your face-to-face?
Well, you probably can't help them as much as face-to-face, because in face-to-face you can correct real time, can't you? If you're doing, like, squatting, I can see immediately, no, you're doing this and this right and wrong. Whereas online you can do the same, but it's afterwards. Yeah. So it's like, you film yourself squatting, send it to me, actually you're doing this, try doing this. So you're still improving them, but it's not quite as real time. So it can never be as good. Like, of me face-to-face, I can talk to you during that hour session, but an hour's PT is like £35. That's like, it's cheaper online. You can do it away. You can work with me across the world. So online has benefits that way. You're still getting the training program, you're still getting the check-ins, still getting the analysis side of things if you want it. But it probably could never be as good as face-to-face, really, but still very good for the majority of people who don't have the time maybe to come in to see you. They're not in that vicinity, and they're just wanting to do the stuff on their own. They've got the knowledge already. They're just wanting something to follow. It's a very good option for most.
Especially for the people who like training at home and don't like the gym atmosphere or know to go in. It's
good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's a lot of people. It's daunting. It's like our gym at Industry is one of the most daunting places until you're settled in and you realise it's not daunting at all. I always say to people, like, were you nervous first time? It's like, really nervous. Everyone's good, and it's like, everybody isn't good. They're not actually judging you. They actually, if they're looking at you, it's probably because they're thinking, well, that's quite cool, I might start doing that myself. But no one in that gym like looks at you and is like belittling you. There's really good community that way.
From the outside, though, when you've just been used to fixed machinery and you've got no base knowledge, stepping into that environment where everyone's been doing it for a couple of years now, it's petrifying, isn't it? Yeah,
that's why I generally recommend to people, not to like push myself, but there's obviously other PTs, go get a PT. Like, it's worth the 10 sessions to learn. If you come to our gym and we do more of this functional stuff and you're learning Olympic lifting and gymnastics, get a coach. It's worth that payment, just so you're not figuring it out on your own. You're getting actual like feedback on how to improve, and then when you go into the classes, you don't feel like a fish out of water.
Yeah, you do that well at Industry. You take your clients on and then you like integrate them, don't you?
They don't need to be with me forever. Some like to be, because there's always something you can improve on, and if you're really dedicated to your craft, like Olympic lifting, for example, there's always technical points that I can give you that you can't see yourself. I could do with a coach, really. Like, if I could have someone in there that was face-to-face, like, just to watch me, like, I've got loads of improvements. I just film myself, watch it back, but real time, everyone could do with a coach, to be fair. But
so What's your training goal at the moment?
Oh, I've got loads. Do you know, like social media, everybody's a hybrid athlete now. I feel like I've been doing that for a while, just didn't put a name to it. Like I've always wanted to be good at everything. I want to run sub 20-minute 5K in January. I put that on Instagram, so I'm gonna kind of do it now. I made a mistake there. My business mentor was like, put loads of content on where you're walking around holding your phone. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I started waffling, and I just said I'm going to do 20 minutes. So got to stick to that. My Olympic lifting, I want to get stronger. I've got the weakest legs in history. Try and get those up to catch up everybody else. We're doing a 100-mile bike ride in a couple of weeks. So things like that. I've got a few kind of on triathlon plans, so just making sure I'm getting back to practicing what I preach in there, going through all the running sessions, swimming, biking. So not like any like specific goals, just like competitions or anything, just ticking a few things off as we go along.
What's your 5K time at the moment?
Well, the best I've ever done is 19:57. That was in lockdown days. I mean, obviously, Big Les. Yeah, we used to run in lockdowns 3-4 nights a week, and then I probably when I joined industry, got a bit more into weightlifting, kind of put that in the back seat, and then probably since working with you again, Jacko, just got a bit of a love for running again, bought some new shoes, like yourself, we'll be going out running.
Mine for doing the shopping.
Yeah. And just getting back into it, it's fun. I feel like running, once you get through that first initial phase, it's not that bad, it's quite therapeutic, just doing those slow, long runs. And then last night we had 15 from industry doing the minging, faster than race pace intervals, doing that as a group. I love it. Like I do love training.
You've done well to get that bigger group.
I know, they all hate running as well, don't they? They're on it now.
Regarding your career going forward then,
Yeah.
You've created plans for a variety of different sports.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about specialising in just one?
Yeah, I get told off for that every time I go for a meeting with a mentor. It's like you have to find a niche, because if you find a niche, you can be known as the triathlon guy, and then you can charge £1 million a plan. Whereas if you're just known as this generic guy, it's hard for them people to really seek you out. And like if you can kind of just have 2 or 3 packages available, and then 10 people wanting it, you charge what you want. Yeah. Whereas if it's unlimited, you kind of dilute your sales price. So yeah, I do need to, but I just can't put my finger on it. Like I love doing my triathlon plans, my weightlifting plans, running plans, powerlifting plans. I've got so many different clients.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting that you have people come in and ask you on specific sports.
Yeah.
And then how does that process begin then? Because obviously you're not going to know straight away. What research do you do on that particular sport to then build that plan out to then send on?
I think the principles of strength and conditioning kind of apply to anything. Like we're working with golfers over the next 4 weeks. If you improve strength, power, mobility, which doesn't really change too much from sport to sport, as a general like preparation, they will get better. You can then add in more specific work, so it might be more like rotational work for the golfers, but most people who haven't undergone strength training will improve just by doing the basics. So there's that basics that applies to all sports, and then you just have to kind of niche down and narrow down a little bit into it. And I would just go into the research and see kind of what the best training, for example, in running is to improve your VO2 max. And it hasn't really changed in the last like 20 years, to be honest, but it's just refreshing mind, reading into case studies, see what the best are doing as well. So like see how many miles a week like Kipchoge was doing before he broke the 2 hours, like how many sessions are they doing a week, see what the best do, and then kind of tailor that realistically to the person that's working in front of you. But yeah, I'll be using the research, seeing what's best to improve like the component of fitness, looking what the best are doing really, and then just using basic strength and conditioning principles from there.
A good example of that was when Ash Mowat came to you for his jump height, wasn't it? This was early on when you not once
for his basketball plan. Yeah.
Ash is like 100% dedicated, and he'll do to the letter what you tell him, and he was doing all sorts in the gym one day. He improved his jump height by it was ridiculous amounts on that. Definitely.
Like he did a little bit of CrossFit first, and then wanted to focus on basketball. And there's obviously stuff in CrossFit like the weightlift that crosses over, but most people, when they're training for sport, they do stuff that's too static. So I introduced things to him like trap bar jumps, med ball work, plyometrics, general strength training was in there, speed work, and that crosses over more to the court than just your bench press, like your deadlift, etc. It's too slow at times, but it doesn't mean that you wouldn't need those as a starting point. But the more experience you get, you can add in these more like advanced exercises to push you on.
In terms of supplements,
Yeah.
Is there any that you would recommend, or do you think some are needed?
Yeah. I went to, in my governing body, not really governing body because it's not actually official, that's probably another problem with S&C, but it's the UK Strength and Conditioning Association. They do a talk every year, and I went down and there was one of the leading, Dr. Graham Close he was called, is it John Moores, I think, and he is one of the leading nutritionists, and he did a great talk on supplements, and like he did a good segment on protein, and there was one company that, I can't remember who they were, but they were doing it out of a garage, and when they got tested, there was loads of rat feces in the protein. So that because they're making it in the garage, the rats had got in there. So you have to be, if you are taking supplements, first of all, be careful where you get it from. There was another company that had, I don't know the exact science here, but they'd essentially some kind of embedded, some kind of anabolic into the protein. People were taking it, getting jacked. They then removed the steroid from it, and then, but because people had already got jacked and thought, this is amazing, taking the protein without the steroid in, but when it got tested, it was obviously came back as clear. I think they just must have tested a previous one, but so they'd made, you got you on steroids, then removed it, and you carried on taking it, but you were hooked because you thought, this is great, it's worked for me, and you kept on taking it. So I always get, especially with my Raiders lads, onto Inform Sport. Okay. So they're tested at source. So at least then you know that 99% it's not going to have any like contaminants in there, especially if you're trying to go pro and you've got testing in there. Like a lot of my Raiders boys get tested like every 2 or 3 weeks. They come for random spot checks. You've got to be on it with the supplements you're taking. But in terms of what actually works, I would say caffeine as a stimulant works. There's research behind that from high intensity stuff. Beta-alanine, we keep pushing Joe Rogan, don't we? But Matt Fraser was on there and he mentioned the word beta-alanine and it went mental. Should we mention something and see if we get it? Beta-alanine again for high intensity work. Creatine, because creatine for like your strength, power, repeatability, and then whey protein if you're struggling to hit your protein targets. But a supplement is just there to replace something in your diet, something like part of your diet that's inefficient. You can't hit that target, so you use a supplement to get there. If you've exhausted all the natural ways of getting your protein, then you would add a protein supplement in, that's fine. But beta-alanine, creatine and caffeine have at least research behind them to support improvements in performance.
Okay, so regarding your point on caffeine, and it's quite often the impression that coffee is bad for you from the caffeine aspect to a certain extent. What is your view on coffee? Is it bad? Is it good?
Yeah, taking caffeine first. So caffeine has a half-life of about 5 to 6 hours. So if you have your cup of coffee, half of it will still be in the system after 5 hours. It's got a quarter life of 10 to 12 hours. So if you had a cup of coffee at like 12, by 12 o'clock at night, you've still got it's like going to bed and having a quarter of a cup of coffee. You wouldn't do it, would you? So it's still in your system there, but it's still a stimulant. It's got performance effects. I would just be mindful of when you're taking it. Generally, they say don't have coffee or caffeine after 3 o'clock for that reason. And essentially, it's because caffeine has the same kind of chemical makeup as these things in your brain called adenosine. So as adenosine fills up throughout the day, you get sleepy when you go to bed. But caffeine binds onto that and it stops you feeling sleepy. But then they're also building up in the background, and when the caffeine wears off, it just boom, all hits you at once and you feel goosed. So you have another coffee and you repeat the cycle. Okay, so I think caffeine can be very useful from like a stimulant perspective to improve kind of sporting aspects. Just be mindful of when you're taking it. I also think that from a health perspective, and from what I've read, it isn't the caffeine that is the benefit of coffee. Coffee does seem to have some improvements in general health, and that's down to the antioxidants. So I would maybe try, I am not a big coffee connoisseur, but like I do love a proper coffee. So it like pains me to say like maybe go on to decaf for a bit, maybe try like lower caffeinated coffees if you're struggling to sleep at night, because I know some people have like 10, 12, we were saying you have like 4 or 5 a day, don't you? But like some have more than that. Yeah. And they're like, well, I don't mind, I still get my 8 hours sleep. And the research does support you'll get your 8 hours, but it's the quality of that sleep. When we sleep, we go through what's called sleep cycles. So you go from like light sleep to deep sleep to REM. You should do that like 4 to 6 times a night. You're not going through those cycles as effectively. So you may get the quantity, but you're not quite getting the quality of that sleep. So that would be my only issue with having coffee or caffeine too late. But coffee itself seems to be beneficial.
Do you know of anywhere where you can actually track your sleep and the quality of that sleep?
Yeah, this is the most contentious subject. My friends always message me set with their Whoop score just to wind me up, because if the research has changed, fair enough, write in and correct me, but the studies that I've read, and remember listening to a podcast, we don't have the technology yet to be able to determine sleep quality, apart from in like a laboratory or like a hospital setting. I may be wrong, but the Whoop bands, I think they're really, really good at telling you the quantity of your sleep. So it tells you when you've gone to sleep. Your heart rate variability seems to be quite accurate, but that quality of sleep, the studies that I was reading not too long ago, it wasn't quite there. It was like a moderate effect rather than a strong correlation. So I don't know if they're there for that. And that's they text me because they know it annoys me, because everyone just buys it, don't they? And they're like, oh, my sleep quality's down. I'm like, is it down? Is it just saying it's down? I always say to them, like, what number is it made up for you today? It's like, you've had a 75% sleep quality. Like, is someone just sat on a computer typing numbers in?
What about the Ring? Have you come across that one?
I have, but I've never really looked into it. What's it meant to do?
Well, very similar.
Similar thing.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay. I just think it feel like things like that, the technology isn't there yet.
Yeah.
But again, I'm happy to be proven wrong. If it is, I'll go buy one.
There's an app for Apple Watch.
Yeah.
And I tried it to see what sort of sleep I was getting, like you say, and it said I got like 45 minutes of quality sleep.
You said 45 hours.
Out of like 7 hours, and I didn't do it again because it wound me up all
Yeah,
day.
there is that as well. Like, imagine if that Whoop band isn't accurate and it's saying, don't train today, you're at 20% strain, and you're actually fine. Like, how annoyed would you be?
Yeah.
Or similarly, if you're feeling good, and sorry, it's saying you're 100% ready to train and you're like full of cold, dead ill, and I don't know, that would just annoy me. It telling me what to do, and if it's not accurate, even if it's a slightly bit inaccurate, that just not for me.
Is there any like sort of technology apps or anything like that you'd actually really recommend to help with your training, your diet, or anything like that?
No, go on.
That you commonly use or you've advised people to use?
From a nutrition perspective, it's just anything that you can track your calories with. NutriCheck or MyFitnessPal are the usual ones. You don't have to track for the rest of your life, but I always think it's worthwhile just seeing what you're eating at the moment, seeing how far away you are from the research-backed target. So I think that's a useful tool. I've got some clients who've tracked for the last 1,000 days. It's just part of the life. It's dead easy when you get into it. It's like 4 minutes of your day, putting all your foods in. Initially, massive ball ache, finding all the foods. A lot of the foods, especially the healthier you eat, they don't have like labels.
Yeah.
So like trying to put that in is just well annoying. But once you've done it more and more, you kind of know how much butcher's chicken that you buy. So it's dead easy to do because it remembers it. So I think it's a useful tool to start with. And then from a training perspective, my clients will just be using, I use a third-party app called Fit Out. It's got all their training program in. They can log kind of the waist measures, circumference measures, log all the weights in there and the PBs. That's pretty useful. But I don't really, like Strava's quite good. It's like another social media platform. You see what everybody's doing, and that's quite good from that. But is there any others that you've come across that you use?
Not really, no. Like you say, there's loads of FADS out there. Like I think all of us have got one of these watches on pretty much now. So I think they're really good.
Yeah.
It help with monitoring what you're doing at the time, training wise, and what your goals are meant to be. But there is loads of stuff out there with sleep, and you just don't know what's what, do you?
No, I think like the fitness apps that are out there, like linked to your watch, providing that's accurate. It has to be accurate if you're using something and like someone said to me, my heart rate's at 210, but they're on a really slow jog and they're talking. I'm thinking like, it can't be at 210. Either you've got some kind of heart condition, go see your GP, or just your watch is just spouting numbers at you. So I'd make sure that's the most accurate it could be. Maybe buying a chest strap there. But if you have got that and it is accurate, then that's a very useful tool for heart rate training.
Yeah.
People like Jacko doing his running needs to be 80% slow, like zone 2 work, which is below that threshold of like lactate accumulation. So he needs to know what that heart rate is that corresponds to that. So that's useful. They tell you your cadence now, your RPM, so things like that, like how many steps per minute you're doing. Like Kipchoge, he runs at about 185 steps a minute, whereas if you look at most amateurs, they're about like 150.
Really?
So that might be something they could look to improve, and the technology will help them there. So I guess there's quite a few apps like that gives you a few more stats to just help your clients have some visual metric to look at.
One thing I did use, to be fair though, I was doing a bit of cycling at one point. Training for when we did that triathlon. It's like so we split an Ironman. No, it wasn't an Ironman, but that sort of distance between us. Use the Zwift.
Yeah,
Absolutely fantastic.
Awesome, yeah.
What a bit of kit that is. Like, it hooks you up to different routes, like actual routes you would ride on your bike. It changes the gear for you. You've got training plans on there, like really professional sort of setup you can do from your own home.
Yeah, I've
never seen anything like that in any other sort of discipline.
It's like Call of Duty for 30 plus year olds, isn't it?
It gets you so fit.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get one of those. I'm just getting into road biking. I spent like £5 million on a new bike. And I saw, is it Wahoo that you've got, the turbo trainer?
Yeah, Wahoo Kicker,
Yeah, I want to get one of those and then set it up to Zwift. It's just cool, isn't it?
Honestly, it's
especially in
unbelievable.
winter, fair weather riders.
You can, because the thing with biking out on the roads as well, obviously there's a danger aspect to it. Like, I've been going down the A590 on training thinking, what fucking I do?
I love shouting at people on the bike. I'm just ready
for down the middle though.
I wanted to get knocked off. I didn't want to do it. I think get me off this bike. But on your Zwift, the good thing about it, you can absolutely flog yourself in a safe environment.
Yeah.
And you're getting all them sort of fitness gains. And I think there's people out there, professional, that train indoors. Like,
why not?
More
if it's simulated, yeah. You can't beat though just going out. We did a ride around Keswick and did some of the Fred Whitten routes. We did Honister, Winlatter and Newlands, and it was like the best day, dead sunny, dead relaxed. You don't get that on a Zwift, but just to keep you ticking in the winter periods.
Yeah.
Like
definitely. You say, I'm the same. I did a loop. You can do the loop of Coniston from Barrow.
Yeah.
And the views, you think, how lucky we are to live here, and you just don't. It's a part of, so you see the views on a bike that you don't usually get to see.
Yeah.
You go off the beaten tracks, and like, I've seen places around here that I've never seen before, just because I've been out on my bike.
Yeah, we're lucky around here. Even just things like little walking routes. There's so many more than you think. You don't have to go that far. Little trails just out the back of Ulverston. There's plenty of walks up like the Cumbria Way and stuff like that. It's amazing. Like we are lucky to live around here.
100%.
I don't know how you moved to London.
So just on Jacko's running and why we were training and the triathlon that Bonner mentioned, we took on the Lakesman Challenge and you helped us with our training for that. And we did that to raise money for the Future Stars Fund.
Yeah.
It's just a charity that we started, and we just wanted to thank you really for the support in sorting us our plans for training. And then our first beneficiary of the fund, little Gracie, who's a fantastic, she's only 11 and she's a fantastic goalkeeper, plays for Everton and Bolton. You've been strength and conditioning trainer, haven't you, industry. So we just wanted to thank you really for the support that you've shown us and the charity. We've got about $4,500 in the pot now from that Lakesman event. So we need to get spending it, and I'm sure that throughout helping sports, like young sports stars in our area, you're going to be a big factor in it going forward for the Future Stars Fund. And just while you're on camera and on the spot, we wanted to ask you if you'd sign up to a fundraising challenge with us next year.
Depends what it is.
Well, Jacko's going to do the Richmond Marathon in September.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the half. Bonner's talking himself into doing the full with Jacko. So wondering if you'd run a marathon with us to raise some money for the... But it's up to you.
Yeah, no, I'll happily. I need to get my house training. So yeah.
Just thought you're working on your 5Ks, you might as well work.
I won't be going as fast as he is, but...
So yeah, that deal.
Yeah, happy with that.
Like, it's on camera, let's write that down.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
Minute
Bonner.
that.
Yeah.
That's good fun for him.
Yeah, he's not here, so he can't process. So yeah, thanks again.
No problem, I enjoy it.
So just to round up, you've given us a lot of people have submitted these technical questions we've been answering you, so I'm guessing this podcast is going to be really beneficial to a lot of people. I think when we ask for questions for guests, I think you got the most out of anyone, people wanting to know, and you've nailed it, so thanks again for that. But you're at industry, you're progressing your business, you're a massive part of industry. What's next for you in terms of growing your business? What's the plans?
I think at the moment, the main thing I want is kind of a better work-life balance. I've really enjoyed just having like weekends free. I've been trying to condense or work really hard Monday to Friday to have Saturdays and Sundays free, so we can spend more time with Hannah and the dogs, which is a big thing for me. I've been doing like 80-hour weeks for too long, so just trying to get a better balance there. I'm thinking pull back a little bit on face-to-face. Still going to do plenty of face-to-face PDs, a little bit, so I can apply more to my online business to help that grow. And then my final venture, working with yourself, is hopefully if everything goes to plan, I'm going to be an owner of Industry 13, the mighty. So going through all that now, and just because I've been there for a couple of years now, I feel like I've got a big involvement anyway, and I just approached the lads not too long ago and just asked what their thoughts are on me joining it. I think it's got crazy amount of potential. For me, it's the best gym around. You don't get that training experience anywhere else, and I want to be a part of taking it forwards. And they've said they'll have me, so just got to sort the forms out.
You've been with us since the start, and if you'd have asked us at any point after the first month, we'd have said
we just got on with click, don't we?
Anyway, yeah.
Was it a bad first month?
Yeah, sure. We wanted red.
No, you used to train then, didn't you?
We passed. Yeah, used to. I was thinking about that McDonald's burger all this podcast, thinking I eat that much processed food. If I died, I'd look the same 2 years. But yeah, I'm looking forward to you. Well, you're already a big part of it anyway, but that's good. So what after that? You're gonna be part owner of a gym. Have you got a 5-year plan, 10-year plan? I don't. Not many people do, but it's.
Well,
want to know your vision.
I think from the gym perspective, we can take that forward. There's a lot of gyms doing big competitions now, so I'd like to get us on the map from a competition perspective. District L, they do that massive comp up the lakes where they essentially book out 2 fields, don't they? And it's a combination of weightlifting, running, trail running, swimming, paddleboarding. Why can't we do that? Coniston, Windermere, we've got the lakes at our front door, haven't we? So
we talk about it quite a lot, don't we? And we put on big events. The gym wants to do a massive CrossFit comp.
Yeah,
we can combine on that and make a giant. We've got a field by the lake.
Oh, that'd be perfect. So, some kind of hybrid competition. It's popular at the moment. People. I don't know if people are going away from bodybuilding training. You'll never go away from that because everybody wants to look good, don't they? And that's just the best way of looking good, I suppose. But it's just boring for me now. I'll never go back. I love this kind of way of training. I think if we do a comp to highlight that's got the best of the endurance, strength, power world, it'd be cool.
Something else we want to do as a fundraiser is a local road race. So whether it's a 10k or a half marathon, and we'll shut the town and get it running round past the big businesses, and the whole town supports it. Our next guest on the podcast is Grant Johnson.
Yeah.
And Bonner's had to shoot. We were hoping you would stay and help us.
Happy, I'll quiz him.
Yeah. That'd be brilliant. Thanks. So
no
thanks
problem.
very much for your time today. It's been brilliant talking to you. Appreciate it.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right, Grant.